The hockey world is absolutely abuzz, which is why we're staying focused on the task at hand, building a fantasy hockey winner. That's why you're tapped into the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Updates for Tyler Seguin and what is going on with the New York Rangers and Winnipeg Jets. We'll talk about it on today's episode. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We hope you didn't miss us too much. The dynamic fantasy duo is back in the booth for the Thursday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. You know what it is. Shout out, much love, and salute to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get started with a big return on FanDuel right now, where new customers that place a $5 wager and win get $150 back. In bonus bets, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Steele, we always try and get everybody in and out in 30 minutes with everything that they need to know around the NHL, impacting their fantasy squad, and of course, big-time bets at the end of the episode. Today, I have a feeling this one might run a little bit long because there are some intriguing angles here that have to be discussed. And when we come on this show, a lot of times we want to keep it positive. We want to look at the studs, the stars, the teams doing well. Today's episode, a little bit of doom and gloom. The Rangers in trouble. Tyler Seguin, a tough injury for a guy off to a hot start. We'll talk about what fantasy pieces could fill in. And of course, these Winnipeg Jets, all kind of negative in nature, but we'll get to big time bets and we'll stack that loot. Over to you, my friend, because look, this Rangers team, you and I haven't spoken a ton about it since the last time we did, maybe a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what you're thinking or feeling here, but this is a bit of a tough situation, and I don't like the smell that I'm getting from this locker room. So hit me with your take on this New York Rangers team and the rumors about eyeing JT Miller.
Yeah, it seems to be a reoccurring theme for the New York Rangers. They start off strong in the month of October. The first couple of weeks of November start to dwindle off toward the later stage of November and all of December. Fans out there calling for heads, calling names out there. We know we've been hearing all the names on the rumor mill that could be potentially trade. Chris Kreider, Jacob Trouba, Mika Zibanejad, all of those guys who they have locked in to some pretty serious
Right.
contracts and terms right now. I think, look, this could be a good situation for the New York Rangers if they can somehow land JT Miller. He's played there before. I don't think he would have any problem making a return to the Big Apple, the big city of New York. He would be in the likes of players like Adam Fox, a guy who's somewhere in the same caliber, a little bit less skilled than Adam Fox, with Quinn Hughes. You've got Artemi Panarin, who we can link with on the top line, Vinny Trocheck, Alexis Lafreniere. That would be a great situation for JT Miller if that were to happen. I've also been seeing some rumors with the Ottawa Senators. Both teams are looking to shake things up with their core right now. Josh Norris. I mean, people are throwing Brady Tkachuk out there. I don't think that's even plausible or possible going to happen.
Yeah, let's stop there. Yeah,
people are turning their heads and they're looking for a clear path to sort of shake things up in both these organizations. So whether it's with the Ottawa Senators, whether it's with the Vancouver Canucks, the New York Rangers will most likely be shaking things up in a big dramatic way. Again, you look at guys like Mika Zibanejad, who are locked in until the 2030 season at $8.5 million AAV. Chris Kreider at 6.5 locked in for another 3 seasons. Jacob Trouba locked in for 2 more years as well. JT Miller, he's the same age as Mika Zibanejad. They're both centers. They're both 31 years old. Their contracts are very similar. Again, both locked in until 2029-30 season. Zibanejad's making 8.5. JT Miller's making 8. You can find a way to get a deal done with some of these elite players and do a blockbuster trade, which, we see very rarely in the National Hockey League. I think it would be crucial, to Mika Zibanejad, who's been very underwhelming so far.
Fantasy disappointment for sure.
Fantasy disappointment for sure. He's had a couple of good games here and there, but nothing very consistent, no confidence, hesitation, like I've said before. JT Miller, on the other hand, obviously left the team with He's absent from the team right now for personal reasons. It would be great to get him back. Whoever drafted him, again, you know how I feel about JT Miller. He is a vital part to any fantasy success out there. Once he comes back, I think he's just going to jump right back into things like he never left. But it'd be great to see him on a team where, they show him a lot of love and appreciation, which I don't think he's received as much of from the Vancouver organization.
It makes a lot of sense, though. That tweet that you sent me, I don't know who came with that take, but it's not on Laviolette. It's clearly not on the goaltending. The forward group is what it is, but they do have kind of a group that I think is good enough. To me, the blue line has really been a letdown, especially defensively. This group allows the second most shots against in the NHL at almost 33 shots against per game. The defense, I know expected goals against is also right there as the worst. The blue line's been bad. And when Will Cooley, great season from Will Cooley. He's your second leading point getter. I'm looking at some of the other depth guys in this roster that need to perhaps step up. Vincent Trocheck squarely in those sites. When I'm talking about guys that I also put a lot of fantasy investment in, Vincent Trocheck is another one of those. Yeah, he fills out your peripherals. And yeah, he's still kind of bringing it with a decent amount, 12 points. But you know how much I love some of these guys. And when you read into what Chris Drury might have to do to shake this up, JT Miller makes a whole lot of sense. If this is a situation, though, that somehow he manages to why would Vancouver want to give up JT Miller, especially when they're in that mix, other than if he's completely unhappy? So I don't want to speculate too much about those angles. I'll speculate on this. If JT Miller's already been doing his thing in Vancouver, I think coming back home in the mix with the Panarins of the world, this might be great for him, and it could be also massive for the Zibanejads of the world. Maybe that's a shot in the arm. I know they both play the same position, but this is a situation that I think you and I, Steele, fantasy or otherwise, we have to be like zeroed in on this, because sooner than later, I really do feel that this Rangers team makes a move. But again, no one really talking about our boy Artemi Panarin, 29 points in 24 games. Usually we'd be saying this is another great start for him, but unfortunately, the rest of the team around him is going to have to step up in a big way.
Yeah, and again, if they can't find a way to get something done with the Vancouver Canucks, I think they could easily look within their own conference to the Ottawa Senators, a team, again, that they should be a lot better than what we've seen this year. Again, some inconsistencies in the blue paint. Linus Ullmark not getting his job done on a consistent basis. Some lack in discipline and responsibility on the blue line as well. And so, I mean, both teams are looking to shake up their top six core, or at least their core. It's going to happen. So if they can't get something done with Vancouver, I think the Ottawa Senators would be a great team to look towards trying to get something done involving some of those guys like Josh Norris, Jacob Trouba. I mean, maybe they somehow make a return to Mika Zibanejad going back to Ottawa. Maybe they don't. They probably don't want that.
You're getting spicy today.
We're getting spicy out here. We're looking for some blockbuster trades. But there's some options out there. Teams are looking to shake things up because of the lack of success so far 2 months into the season. We're going to come back after the break. We're going to talk about the unfortunate injury to Tyler Seguin. What does this mean for some players getting some opportunities, especially fantasy-wise? Of course, we're going to talk about the Winnipeg Jets later in this episode. Have they overachieved? They're on a 3-game losing streak right now. And like we always do, big-time bets towards the end of the episode.
Also, just a note about these Rangers, Mr. Rodin, ugly 6-2 loss to the Oilers a week and a half ago. Then the Blues, ugly. Tight one to the Canes. Embarrassed by the Flyers. They win one against the Canadiens, and then they get dusted by the Devils. They have just looked absolutely disheveled and not like the Rangers that we're used to. So something's not sitting right with this team. We'll continue to talk about it and the fantasy impacts with all of the news from around the NHL. We're here Monday through Friday every single month until that cup gets lifted. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's numero uno sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $5 on a winning bet and get $150 back in bonus bets if that bet hits. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need in the same place that you put your bets on the NFL, all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you're already laying those bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 wager hits. Visit FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Make sure you're sharing with your friends and family out there. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you've been showing us, of course, getting into the holiday season. Again,
Yes,
appreciate it. We couldn't be doing this without all of our listeners out there. So thank you so much for tuning in, making it your first listen every single day. Some sad news for some fantasy owners out there. If you had Tyler Seguin, he has been dropped at a spectacular rate right now.
He has to be
4 to 6 months after undergoing pretty much season-ending surgery. He could make a return in the last couple of weeks of the regular season. Potentially a return in the postseason for the Dallas Stars. But this is a massive blow to anyone out there who has had Tyler Seguin, a guy who is probably, again, like I said the other day, maybe playing the best hockey of his career so far. 20 points in 19 games, plus 14. The peripherals are something to be desired as well. You're not going to get hits, you're not going to get blocks, but regardless, he's been spectacular this season. So unfortunately, you have to drop in. You have to go to the waiver wire, pick somebody up. You can tune in back to Monday's episode for some of those waiver wire targets Flip and I talked about. Unfortunate news for the Stars and fantasy owners out there.
This is a tough one for me, Steele, also because Segan has just also been very important to the Dallas Stars' success. And I look back to how good he was in the postseason last year, and that's one of those angles too. There's a lot of mileage on this guy's body. Just games played alone, plus all of the injuries. He's gone under the knife for hip surgery before. And this sounds like a complete rebuild of his hip. I don't even want to try and butcher the surgery that he just went under.
Yeah.
He will not be playing hockey again this year in the regular season. So do not even think for a second to hold on to an IR spot for Tyler Seguin, even though considering his 20 points so far this season, if it wasn't that long-term, you might consider it. He had 13 points in 19 postseason games last year for the Dallas Stars. He's been critical to their success in a team that sits 10th in the NHL in goal scoring. Look, this is my takeaway here. Yes, tune into Monday. We'll hit you with some options to fill in for Tyler Seguin. Most definitely, there's going to be some intriguing ones. It's this for the Dallas Stars. We know Jim Nill's not going to sit idly by here. This team is far too good, fantasy or otherwise, because I know you and I have had our ups and downs about Miro Heiskanen. Wyatt Johnson's had a bit of a slow start. He's come on. Rupe Hintz. Otherwise, this team is built to win a Stanley Cup. So Jim Nill is not going to sit idly by and lose one of his bigger offensive pieces. I don't know what that looks like, but I expect the Dallas Stars to be very, very active. Right now, I think this means good things for the Stankovens, the Marchments of the world who are going to have to eat more minutes. So immediately, I'm starting to look there for some short-term fill-ins if they're available in your leagues. However, I would also be very confident in saying this Dallas Stars team might look to add, and that's going to mean even more good things for their upfront fantasy group. But that's my take on that, Steele.
Yeah, I mean, Logan Stankoven, he's currently rostered at 37% right now on Yahoo, so I would jump on that as fast as soon as possible. So obviously that's going to be the guy they go towards. You know, there's going to be some juggling of the lineups. Wyatt Johnston, Logan Stankoven, Dadonov, Evgeny Dadonov as well, all up that right side. The thing with this Dallas Stars team, though, is you can't buy into a lot of the average time on ice, you know, playing more, you know, working towards that opportunity and getting that opportunity. The Dallas Stars, especially Peter DeBoer, he doesn't rely on those top lines as much as other teams do. I mean, you look at the top 6 guys from this roster, you know, Jason Robertson, Matt Duchene, Mason Marchment, Wyatt Johnston, Rupe Hintz. they're barely cracking 17 minutes of average ice time this season.
Good point.
Peter DeBoer is just rolling lines because he has confidence in all of his players, especially the top 9 group. You go all the way down to the third line of Jamie Benn, Sam Steele, and Dodonov, who I talked about. Again, you look at some of their average time on ice so far this season. Matt Duchene, just over 16 minutes. Mason Marchment, just under 16 minutes. Their top forward this year so far is actually Wyatt Johnston at 1846. He's playing the most amount of hockey right now.
Yeah.
So there's opportunity to be had again. If Logan Stankoven is available in your league, jump on that as quickly as possible. Get him into your lineup, especially if you have Tyler Seguin, get him fill in that position ASAP. But again, this is a team that they roll the lines because they're so deep offensively. They don't need to depend on that top forward group. When you look over towards the Edmonton Oilers, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, they're averaging over 21 minutes. Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, averaging over 20 and a half minutes. It's not the same thing, but again, there is opportunity for sure to be had for a guy like Logan Stankoven, who is going to be there in that top 6 group in the absence of Tyler Seguin.
Especially in the short term. Like I said, I also know ownership in Dallas. They're a bit of a wild crew, and they definitely want to win now. And I think that's the mode that Jim Nill's going to be in. However, that's not going to happen overnight. So everything that you just said definitely holds true for these internal pieces. I think this team is just that good enough. Back to front, Ottinger, Heiskanen, all the pieces that we love. You know, Thomas Harley, fantasy-wise, has not really jumped off the page. But again, that's one of those situations we have to separate what we're seeing fantasy-wise and what this team can bring in terms of winning games on a nightly basis. And they've had their struggles. They will be there as one of the final teams standing in the Western Conference. I'll say that with confidence. I'll also say this with confidence. The Winnipeg Jets right now are losing games. The Winnipeg Jets right now are a team that, when you look at how good speaking of the Central Division Steel, Colorado Avalanche 6-4-0 in their last 10. The Dallas Stars 7-3-0 in their last 10. And then you got the Hart Trophy favorite right now in your boy Kirill the Bill the Thrill, absolutely cooking at 7-2-1 and 4 straight wins. There is going to be a good team on the outside looking in, as I always say in these divisions. But right now, if the Jets keep dropping games like this, Steel, and the offense has run dry on them, that's what I want to throw back to you. The offense has run dry. They are going to be a team that might also need to look to add. I don't know where, I don't know how, but all of a sudden, that red hot start in a tough division is starting to look like perhaps we need to take a real look at what this team was doing. And I think a little bit of overachieving, fantasy or otherwise.
How about that Minnesota Wild, baby? Top of the league.
Hey, I got the mini green on for you today and everything.
Mini green. I appreciate it. I sent a tweet out earlier yesterday. Who would have thought that the Minnesota Wild and Washington Capitals would have been the top 2 teams at this point in the season? Absolutely incredible. But look, we talked about the Winnipeg Jets many, many times so far this season, especially I want to go back 3 weeks ago. When you look at their scheduling, the Winnipeg Jets probably had one of the easiest, at least top 5 easiest schedules for the first 6 weeks of the season. They got into a portion in mid-November where we all knew it was going to be very tough for them. The New York Rangers, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Florida Panthers, the Minnesota Wild, Vegas Golden Knights, LA Kings. They got into a very tough stretch. So that's where I want to start. A big loss to Tampa Bay and Florida on the road. You lose to the Nashville Predators, which is a tough one to soak, but they go up against the LA Kings, lose. Vegas Golden Knights, lose. Dallas Stars, lose. Obviously a tough loss to the St. Louis Blues, but that's going to happen when a team gets a new coach, especially in Jim Montgomery, who's able to change the dynamic very quickly like that on an absolute dial. So they were going through a very tough stretch of their season so far. So I don't want to say they overachieved, but when you go on a 15-game win streak to start the season and now you're 3-7-0 in your last 10, it's not a good look. The offense has run dry a little bit in the last 3 games, only putting up 3 goals, I believe, in the last 3. So it's definitely been a tough schedule. I don't want to say they have overachieved so far this year. Again, to me, it always comes down with this team, like the Toronto Maple Leafs, like the Minnesota Wild. What are they able to do in the first round of the playoffs? This is a team that cannot get out of the first round, cannot make deep runs. That's what matters to me. They still have the best goaltender in the world in Connor Hellebuck. fantasy-wise, and again, just in the National Hockey League. So I'm going to go the opposite direction. I don't think they've overachieved this year so far. I just think it's been a very tough stretch on the schedule for them.
I know they've also really struggled, and this isn't the be-all and end-all of why they've been losing games. They're at the bottom of the league in winning faceoffs, and that's not exactly a fantasy angle that needs to always be covered, but when it comes down to puck possession, it looks like they've been really struggling in the dot, and that is playing into their inability to generate chances. And I'll hit you with this take. We'll come back. Actually, I'll hit you with it right after the break. Let's get to bets, and we'll wrap it up with the Jets right after this.
Hey, we're going to get to big time bets. Loads of great games on Thursday night. Betting breakdown coming up next. We're going to touch again on the Winnipeg Jets later in this episode. And of course, like we said, big time bets like we always do. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Once again, continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review, or getting after it, of course, like we always do with big time bets coming up after the break. One last point on the Winnipeg Jets, though. Over to you, my friend Flip.
Yeah, my bad. I butchered that little no ad. I forgot about that. The old boy over here is struggling a little bit still, but I'm not struggling when I take a look at this Jets team. And I'll say this, what I wanted to get out of the way is I still think there's a lot of fantasy value here, even though they're struggling. I expect them to still maintain a top 3 position in this division. I just wanted to come on here and say that right now, don't jump ship on the hot starts from, Ehlers, obviously Kyle Connor stud, but even the peripherals. I know we've had questions about Cole Perfetti in that, somewhat of a cold streak. This team is going to get theirs. I think that blue line this year has really performed well, and you mentioned it's anchored by Hellebuck. So fantasy take final for me is don't jump ship on these guys just yet. If this goes prolonged, if it starts to get ugly, we can revisit this topic and talk. 4 games, we got to pay attention, and we got to mention what's going on. However, it doesn't mean everything's off the rails. Also, the bets back on the rails. I got a same game parlay, so I'll finish. Over to you. Where are you looking? I had a tough time once again, Steele, looking at this board. I said it the other night. There are a lot of games, but for me, I had a tough time throwing down confident picks. My same game parlay will back it up, but over to you. Where are you looking?
Yeah, rapid fire with all 3 of my picks going into Thursday, starting with the Detroit Red Wings and the Ottawa Senators. Division matchup from the Atlantic division right now. I'm taking the over 6.5 in this matchup. 5 out of the last 10 between these teams have gone over the number. These are teams that break down mentally in the third period, giving up leads, 2-goal leads, forcing overtimes, and can quickly come back in those type of formats. I feel the over 6.5 in this matchup. Again, some pretty terrible goaltending on both sides. You still have Cam Talbot and Alex Lyon on the IR. They're going over to Ville Husso or their 4-string goaltender Linus Ullmark and Anton Forsberg have not also been a great tandem so far this year. The over 6.5 is what I'm feeling going into Thursday night. I'm also putting that with McDavid 2+ points against the Columbus Blue Jackets in 16 games, in 16 career games against the Blue Jackets. I'm talking, Flip. Just listen right now. 16 games against the Blue Jackets in his career, 9 goals, 21 assists for a total of 30 points. I'm going with the McDavid 2+ points in this matchup. Lock of the night, though. Lightning on the puck line against the San Jose Sharks. 8 wins in their last 10. 7 of those 8 have come by 2 or more goals. Those are 3 picks, and the Tampa Bay Lightning puck line is the lock of the night.
First pick, Connor McDavid, 2+ points. Let's get it out of the way. That's been one of my most consistent and favorite picks of the entire season. No points for McJesus in his previous game. That's going to also prop up our value a little bit. They got shut out 1-0, a very good Vegas Golden Knights team. Previous to that, though, absolutely cooking. 31 points in 22 games this season. You already mentioned his track record against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and as I mentioned, this is the same game parlay. The Columbus Blue Jackets were in a very tough spot going into Calgary in a very emotional type setting. For obvious reasons, rest in peace to Johnny Gaudreau, and so much love and respect to the Gaudreau family. I don't know about you, Steele, very sidebar. The fact that Johnny Gaudreau's dad has been out there and active with these teams, kind of mentoring some of these young players. Like, can we give a little bit of love to the hockey community for really getting around this Goudreau family? So, complete sidebar. That's what I want to see more in sports, and that's what I want to see more in hockey. So much love, salute, and respect to that. I love it too. That was a tough spot for Columbus to be in, and a very emotional one. They're also on a West Coast swing as an East Coast American team.
We knew it was going to be a tough road trip.
Very tough. So, Oilers, money line, second pick. Like I said, this is a same game parlay, so smashing them together, you're still going to double or triple your money. And I'm going to take the over in this one as well as my lock of the night, but I'm going to tease it down to 5.5 to be even more gutless, because I got a little bit of a concern that perhaps Columbus is going to get skunked. So, Oilers, money line, McDavid 2+ points, and lock of the night, over 5.5 as a same game parlay.
I like the over 6.5 in this matchup. I mean, I would lean towards the Oilers on the money line in this game over the Columbus Blue Jackets, obviously at home. But there's been some really good bright spots with this Blue Jackets team so far this year. We're starting to see a little bit more from Fantilli, Werenski. Again, knock on wood right now, but he hasn't been injured. He's been very consistent, proving why he's a great defenseman on the blue line for them. And of course, their Russian trio. Marchenko, all those guys that we've talked about. So there's been
Voronkov.
Exactly. So there's been a lot of bright spots with them. I would actually lean towards the over 6.5, but if you want to tease it to the over 5.5, no worries there. I'm also with you on the over in this game. Those are the picks. Those are the locks of the night for Thursday. You can place all those bets on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to share with your family, your friends out there. We really do appreciate everyone that tunes in, making it your first and daily listen every single day. You can make sure for your second listen, you're checking out the Locked On NHL podcast. The link is in the description below, so you don't have to go searching for it. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with your bet tonight, your weekly matchups. Everyone get ready for the Christmas season, holiday season. We're getting after it. The snow is coming, and we'll be back here again tomorrow.